What you eat will make you more or less resilient to stress. What you eat can cause you anxiety, make you feel sadder. The care you give to your gut can make you smarter in the short term or disrupt your cognitive ability. Good neuromuscular function and therefore your physical performance also starts in the digestive system. Today you are about to understand one of the greatest mysteries of medicine and health, the connection between the gut and the brain. At the end of the video, you will take away very clear guidelines to improve your brain and mood by acting entirely, exclusively on your digestive system. What is the gut-brain axis? It's a bidirectional communication network that connects two things, the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system, the one in the gut. The gut communicates with the brain, with your brain and your brain with your gut. This communication is ongoing, 24/7 non-stop. Your brain knows at all times what's going on down there. And your digestive system knows at all times what's going on up there. How is that bidirectional communication established? Fundamentally in 4 ways. There are 4 two-way lanes. Firstly, the nerve pathway. This communication is carried out through the vagus nerve, the enteric nervous system, and neurotransmitters that act in the digestive system. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, serotonin, melatonin, histamine, and acetylcholine. The vagus nerve, as we saw in this video, regulates much of your parasympathetic nervous system, which has everything to do with your digestive health and is usually activated to a lower level. The endocrine pathway, the second one. This connection is established through peptides with hormonal activity generated in intestinal cells with endocrine activity, cells in your digestive system that produce hormones. These peptides reach the brain and act there as neurotransmitters. One of them is galanin, which among many other things regulates the production of stress hormones by the central nervous system. Yes, your gut can to some extent regulate how stressed you feel. Third way, humoral or metabolic pathway. Through postbiotics that are generated by the fermentation of carbohydrates like butyrate, the power of this pathway is exerted. Butyrate is a small fatty acid produced by your microbiota, which regulates metabolism and behavior. For example, acting directly on the glia in the brain, the cells that assist neurons, or regulating the amount of serotonin produced in the digestive system. Remember that 95% of your body's serotonin is produced here. It turns out your behavior not only depends on you, but also on your digestive system. And finally, the immune pathway, through cytokines, non-hormonal molecules, pro or anti-inflammatory, whose release is regulated by the microbiota. Here's a hint, anything changing your microbiota also changes this immune pathway. And remember that chronic inflammation not only affects the muscle, liver or pancreas, it also affects your brain. You might ask, Bora, this is great for my scientific curiosity, but how can I tell daily that what I eat impacts my mood and cognitive health? Well, you really just have to observe a little. It is well known that people with mood disorders such as depression and anxiety suffer a higher prevalence of functional gastrointestinal disorders. There's ample proof for this, no need for diagnosis or labels. Think about when you're more nervous, you digest worse, your stools are poorly formed, your stomach hurts, and everything feels bad. Even things that made you feel good a week ago. Am I the only one who had to visit the restroom multiple times before an exam or a significant competition? And in the other direction, there are foods that generate a sustained state of emotional well-being, and there are others that, although they generate intense pleasure at the time of ingestion, a few minutes later they have a notable impact on your well-being. Notice, those who suffer from digestive pathologies suffer from anxiety or depression more frequently, which is just the opposite of what I told you before. And this not only happens due to the deterioration of the quality of life and the narrative created around the disease. I can't lead a regular life due to my digestive issue. It's also because the 4 paths I mentioned earlier are altered. Give it a try. I'm sure you don't feel the same after having dinner of sardines and a salad than after having a feast of a hamburger, french fries, fried sweet potato, and cheesecake. Let's dive into practice. What can I do? How can I improve this situation? You can do a lot. There are fundamentally 2 actions you have to take to improve your mood from the gut. Don't forget, we don't discuss meditation, concentration improvement, or cognitive behavioral techniques here. All of that is great, but we don't talk about that. We discuss enhancing from the ground up, focusing on protection and avoiding harm. Let's begin by avoiding harm. Skip the sweeteners. The food industry has a clear, direct message for you. Caloric sweeteners are a perfectly healthy alternative to sugar, and there is nothing wrong with consuming them, even on a daily basis. They don't have calories, correct? No calories, no problem? Well, the reality is somewhat more complex. Although the evidence is not unanimous, as there are differences in dosage, frequency of consumption, types of sweeteners, not all are the same, one thing is very clear: they are not harmless to digestive or metabolic health, they are not. And above all, there is variability. There are subjects who tolerate more amount of sweeteners and others who are usually those who already have certain digestive problems that worsen with a small dose, with a small amount. Recent clinical trial in healthy subjects revealed that intake of sucralose, saccharin, stevia, and aspartame, as compared to glucose, deteriorated microbiota and glucose tolerance. Again, they were healthy individuals, not typically consuming sweeteners. And it is also important to mention that in this study, doses below the recommended daily acceptable intake were used. That is, a priori this situation could perfectly be reproduced in our kitchens and in our homes. How do they behave? Primarily, they reduce bacterial diversity and lessen the production of short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, previously mentioned for its protective metabolic effect. Remove pro-inflammatory components, several ingredients that you consume daily without realizing are harming you. Emulsifiers are additives facilitating the mix of ingredients like fat and water, which typically don't combine. They also enhance texture, consistency, and prolong product shelf life. Lecithin is one of the most famous. Well, emulsifiers decrease bacterial diversity. A key element for good digestive health, they upregulate pro-inflammatory bacteria, alter microbial gene regulation, decrease the thickness of the mucous layer, which is very important. And as if that were not enough, they can alter the tight junctions of the digestive wall, increasing intestinal permeability. Colorants, of course, these additives provide color and attractiveness to food, it's obvious, but they are metabolized by the microbiota, which produces from them, generates other inflammatory metabolites. That is, they turn your microbes into inflammation generators, nanoparticles. This field is completely new, but we already know that ultra-processed foods can have tiny particles like microplastics on the order of nanometers, tiny, and these reduce the amount of some important bacteria. For instance, Faecalibacterium prausnitzii. Thus, they provoke inflammation and boost oxidative stress in your digestive system. You might ask, Borja, how can I remove this from my daily life? Do you know how to eliminate all this at once without comprehending all these mechanisms? Simply by removing ultra-processed foods from your diet. And now I would go into the protective elements, those that restore your digestive system. Set digestive rest periods. Daily life presents numerous challenges to your digestive and, consequently, nervous system health. Stress and what we put in our mouths are the most frequent, but your body really has a lot of regenerative capacity. You just have to give enough time for these processes to occur. And this is incompatible with eating every hour and a half, especially if what you eat are the elements from the previous point. If you have digestive problems, try spacing your meals a bit more. And you don't necessarily have to go on fast of more than 12 hours, although you can do it if you know how. Although paradoxically, this is also one of the benefits of intermittent fasting and the reason why many of you improve your digestive symptoms by doing it. What has been your digestive experience with intermittent fasting? I'll read your comments. Consume probiotic foods daily? Notice that here I said foods and not probiotic supplements. Probiotics, and specifically those with lactobacilli and bifidobacteria, have the ability to strengthen the barrier function in the intestinal epithelium, making your gut more resistant to possible nutritional attacks, stress, or alcohol, for example, to name a few. In this way, we would strengthen your digestive system. One of my favorites is natural kefir without sweeteners, which would be a contradiction to add sweeteners to kefir. You'll get used to the taste without sugar, I assure you. And how do I use it? Well, usually as a dessert. Use of psychobiotics. What is this about psychobiotics? Another invention, correct? They're probiotics designed to enhance psychiatric disorders. And even though we still don't have certainty about which exact strains to use, there is already interesting evidence that exploits this brain-gut interaction from the gut. In this clinical trial, the administration of a combination of Lactobacillus acidophilus, Casei, and Bifidobacterium bifidum for 8 weeks improved symptoms of depression in participants, which is striking. As for anxiety, this trial with Lactobacillus rhamnosus reduced the subjective perception of stress during, very interestingly, a public speech in healthy adults. This is the territory of the future, but soon we will know how to select specific and personalized strains to improve clinical conditions like these. In conclusion, the key takeaway today is that by boosting your digestive health, you are improving your mood, which usually is a virtuous circle. You may wonder, a circle, Borja? Why? Because feeling better reduces the need to eat poorly. And the worse you feel, the more you will resort to reinforcing foods that will make you feel immediately good, but that will destroy your digestive system, making you feel worse and reinforcing you to go back for more of those foods, or those products, better said. This highlights the distinction between a virtuous and a vicious circle. Share this video as needed. For more on microbiota and digestive health, check our episode with Dr. De La Puerta. I'll leave this here. Thanks for staying, subscribing, and continuously supporting this channel. Big hug. See you next video. Keep empowering.